Hi, I'm John Cameron Mitchell, actor, director, and writer of my new film, How to Talk to Girls at Parties, and I'm here on France 24.
Let me welcome you to the punk revolution!
My film, How to Talk to Girls at Parties, is a kind of punk romance fairy tale with a punk boy and a space alien girl.
John Cameron Mitchell, tell me about this room that we're in. It's quite remarkable.
I know, this is ARP, our French distributor, who I love, and the whole building is full of art, and I include this as part of the art. My favorite thing, these are all ancient slot machines, you know, for like kind of, you know, the original Las Vegas. This painting is hysterical. It's the moment when the new Pope is announced from the balcony, and it's so funny because look at this priest. I mean, he's never been happier.
I just want to show you a video that's gone viral on the internet. It's called, well, the people are saying it's the most British thing ever. Have you seen it already?
No.
Now, the bus driver stops the motorbike from hitting a pedestrian, and the pedestrian politely stops for the motorbike. And one person said it's the first thing that's made them feel warm and fuzzy since Brexit.
That's the best of Britain, which is like, let's get along, let's make it work.
I'm mentioning that video because you've said your film is a metaphor for Brexit. Tell us more.
Well, we had an accidental metaphor for Brexit because we had made it before the vote, and Sandy Powell, our great British costume designer, said, well, how are these aliens are going to get around on the street in, you know, of Croydon in 1977 during the Queen's Jubilee without being noticed as rubber-suited aliens? I said, rain ponchos? She said, Jubilee rain ponchos with British Union Jacks on them. I'm like, but wouldn't that be weird when they all in single file walk off a building in a Union Jack? There seems like there would be a metaphor there that I don't understand. And she said, it'll look great. So we did it. And now we have this accidental metaphor of a bunch of people to avoid human contamination jumping off a building in a British flag. Our film is definitely, and anything punk, is definitely about breaking down borders. It's definitely about mixing. You know, we have an alien and a punk creating a new colony, you know. It's a romance. It's a simple high school love story that has an underlying message of hope and of openness.
A major survey by YouGov that came out at the beginning of June found that the majority of young people in Great Britain aren't proud of being British. What's changed since the young people in your film were shouting, "We are England," and were so proud of being British?
Well, you know, the 70s was a kind of cauldron of culture as well as of trouble. You know, and it eventually led to Thatcher, you know, a certain kind of desperation led to looking for an iron lady. And out of that came an incredibly rich stew of cultural and musical stuff, you know, the punks being one of them. One of the other cultural things was a kind of nationalism. So next to the punks and the Teddy Boys, who were about the past, punks were about now and about smashing things now. And then there was the British National Front, which was the other side, which was panic, which was keep Britain British. And even Eric Clapton had a famous tirade during one of his concerts where he wanted Britain is for British, everyone else out. It was a disgusting speech that led to the first Rock Against Racism concerts in Hyde Park. Unfortunately, a large group of people start to blame others for their problem and think, oh, well, our problem is based on someone else.
The film is set in 1977, the year of the Queen's Jubilee.
So, what did I think of the Queen's Jubilee in America?
In America? They're in favor of it.
Really?
The sovereign embodies their collective consciousness.
In some ways, our obsession with the royal family hasn't changed that much. Just look at the royal wedding that took place a few weeks ago. Why do you think the royal family is still so interesting to people?
I don't know, and I don't really have it. I mean, I watched The Crown like everybody else, and that was fun. Any embattled group, the royalty or punks or aliens, is interesting culturally, ethnographically. You know, like, what are the rules of a small culture? I love that. To me, the royal family is just as much a group of aliens as Elle Fanning's character in this film.
Speaking of royalty, Nicole Kidman plays Queen Boadicea in your film after the queen that led an uprising against the Romans. She says that was the first punk. The first punk was a woman. When every area is being scrutinised, is the punk world one of equality?
Well, the original punks, there was an egalitarianism about it. We may not all have the same opportunities. We may not have all come from a useful or a wealthy or privileged provenance, but once, like a gay bar, you know, or in the best sense, the punk scene was, I don't care where you're from, what do you have to bring to the party? What is original about you? Patti Smith was a progenitor, and she, you know, it was gender bending as well. You know, so there was a queer element. The women, it was definitely a sexist environment like everything else was then, but the women who came forward, the Susie Sues, the Vivienne Westwoods, the Patti Smiths, were extraordinary. I mean, you had to be more extraordinary in a way if you were a woman or you were queer.
You know, a year ago I had Johnny Rotten kipping right there. Next time I saw him, he didn't even know me, the fucking Frampton. Susie Sue, Dee Dee Ramone, Ari Up from the Slits. I knew all of them in the day, which was only a few months ago, really. Sellouts now, of course. I worked with Vivienne Westwood till she fired me for improving on one of her gowns. Green is not a good colour on her, let me tell you.
For many people, the unrest that sparked punk music in the 70s and 80s is one for history books. But look at groups like the Russian band Pussy Riot, who were jailed for hooliganism after they protested against Vladimir Putin. They've recently been on tour in the US, and they even made a video about Donald Trump called Make America Great Again. Is that where the spirit of punk lies today?
It is. I've met two of those women in Pussy Riot, and I was very impressed by their toughness and their lack of glamour. I mean, there's no advantage to being in Pussy Riot in Russia. There's no money or glamour in it. They're actually fighting. The Parkland teenagers in Florida are to me, feel like an example of a new kind of punk.
Friends were taken from us.
What's punk?
Like the Ramones or the Sex Pistols or the New York Dolls. Well, some people don't count the Dolls, but it's like anarchy. Now that is punk.
Elle Fanning, who stars in the film, has described you as an encyclopedia of punk. I'm an alien, I arrive on Earth. Describe punk to me.
Elle's character in this film keeps asking people, what is punk? And it's not very punk to give an answer.
Okay.
You know? But it's punk to question and to figure it out. Sometimes it is hard to define. It's like obscenity. A famous justice to the Supreme Court said, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. And so that, when he was banning something, is when he said that, which is a ridiculous thing for a judge to say, because they're supposed to define things. If he was asked to define punk, I think he might say the same thing. But there's a few things in common, that you're challenging received wisdom, you're challenging authority, you're saying just because it was always that way doesn't mean that's the way it should be. You're hopefully, there's a destructive element, but it's destructive in order to other things, like you're burning the field that other things can grow.
The name of your film is How to Talk to Girls at Parties. There are lots of ideas in the movie about how to get people you fancy interested in you. What are your tips for dating?
if a straight guy asked me, I said, well, just say that you're gay because a girl will relax immediately. It's the best way. I have a lot of music in my films, and music is the great. Music and humor are the things that I use as tools to relax. So dancing and singing and cracking jokes are all of my films will have that, and that's always going to be the way you meet a boy or a girl or other.
John Cameron, Mr.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We like to eat, we like to dance, we like to fall in love, and we try and fix what our parents screwed up. Are you lot with me?